Hey everyone, I know I'm the only thing standing between you and an evening of debauchery, so we are going to keep this on point and moving quickly. Today, we're talking about the two inbound engines, or when it comes to inbound, the two engines that I pretty much break everything into, and then how I use that to generate tens of thousands of leads a month, well over 30,000 leads a month. So first, the proof. This is our 2016 actuals and lead goals at IWT. Came out strong in January and basically just widened that gap, widened that cushion all year long. I was actually super mad in January because I realized I hit 119% of my annual goal, not 120. But it is what it is. We smashed our goal and I was pretty happy with that. My headline was actually a little too humble. We averaged 40,000 leads, over 40,000 leads last year. And it's not the first time I've done this either. At KISSmetrics, I quadrupled lead counts inside of a year. So I've done it a few times. Now, the first big kind of philosophy, or the mental shift that you really need to take away is you got to stop thinking in marketing campaigns. Whenever someone comes to me and says they want to run a campaign, I hear 60, 90 days of really intense effort, a pop of leads, and then the month after, it all goes away, and we're right back to where we started. I hate front running on a treadmill. I hate building from scratch. I do everything in systems. So I hate marketing campaigns. We don't talk about marketing campaigns on my team at all. Someone tells me they have a marketing campaign idea, great. How does that scale? What is the system behind that? How does it turn into a repeatable process that gives me leads this month and next month and every year, year over year? If you want to build this kind of volume, you have to start thinking in systems. Otherwise, you're just never going to get there. And this is where a lot of marketing teams, kind of the big mental barrier that prevents them from ever getting to the volume that they could, is this single insight. But how do you do that? How do you actually build the systems? What systems should you even focus on? What are the levers to give you that kind of volume so you're not getting stuck in this treadmill and you are building these systems that grow year over year over year? Well, the first big question you have to ask yourselves is, are you playing a volume game or a quality game? A lot of folks mix these two up. And if you mix them up, then you're going to get stuck in that treadmill and just doing the same thing over and over again. So first, let's go through a couple of examples of where I personally screwed this up. At KISSmetrics, we got stuck into a PDF content mill. We had this bright idea of, hey, PDFs, they bring in some leads for our sales team. If one PDF is great, why not 50, right? So we set up this quota with our team. We started cranking these things out. It took us like a year or two. We basically had this huge resources page. I think it's still live if you go to KISSmetrics.com. I don't think they've had the heart to take it down yet. But we cranked out all these PDFs. And did this increase my lead counts at all during the duration of while we were working on this? No, they didn't. Well, maybe it gave me like an extra 10 leads a month. But we were doing 8,000 a month. I certainly didn't care about an extra 10. Certainly, considering the work that these things took. I had to have a writer spend weeks and weeks putting together each of these things, and then a designer working on the cover. It's too much time. Now, the reason that specific content mill doesn't really work is, how are those 50 PDFs going to generate any traffic, right? You can put them on your site, but that doesn't mean anybody else, if it's not increasing your traffic, it's not increasing your audience, it's not increasing your lead flow. Instead, I'd much rather have 49 blog posts and one amazing PDF. If I can get that, then I have a much more reliable lead gen system. I have something I can scale, something that's repeatable. Another example where we screwed this up. When I joined I Will Teach, the team was working on these mini courses, basically a really fancy PDF. So front-end time was going into this, all sorts of landing pages being built by scratch, tons of time on the copy and the opt-ins, a week or two of follow-up content and drip sequences and all this nonsense. But essentially, we're in the exact same boat, right? We have an opt-in page that Google doesn't want to rank, right? Google knows what we're trying to do. Our visitors know what we're trying to do. We know what we're trying to do. Everybody knows that we're just trying to get the email address so no one wants to send more traffic to this. So of course it's not going to work. And whenever we launched one of these, we would we'd send it out to our email list. We'd get like 1,000 new leads a pop, and then again, 30 days later, nothing. Right? Maybe 10 leads. I certainly don't care about 10 extra leads when I'm doing 40K a month. So here's the rule of thumb. If you're going after traffic, you're playing a volume game. If you're going after conversions, you're playing a quality game. Don't mix these up. And we're going to break down each of these. These are the two engines, and I'm going to show you how I approach each. So the first one, let's talk about traffic engine 1. And really, this is all about ramping volume, and ramping volume in the right way. So a couple examples first. SEO posts, classic volume game, right? You can get a post to rank for a keyword. You can do that consistently. Your unlimited number of blog posts will drive, theoretically, an unlimited number of traffic, right? It's all about how much can you crank out and run successfully. Another example from last year is our ultimate guides. I know these things are starting to get around. I see a lot of people copying them. And it's a variation of the SEO blog post, right? So we're just going all in. We have a mini site. These things are 7-9 different pages. Maybe 10,000 words, lots of design time, infographics, a ton of front-end time, maybe even tools built into them, the whole 9 yards. And the whole point of this is, okay, ramp up quality, go after a high-volume keyword, and if we get the quality, high enough, theoretically, Google will finally allow us to rank for the traffic that we're going after. I have a confession for you guys. This is the Ultimate Guide to Habits. This thing has been out for about a year now. Yeah, right about 12 months. It is currently on page 7 of the search results for the keyword habits. All right? That's not exactly a recipe for success. These things take a month to write. They take 2 weeks of design time. They take 2 weeks of front-end time, all for page 7 on Google. I don't know about you guys, but that's one profitable strategy if I ever saw one. No, that's a fucking terrible idea. So I killed the program. Shut it down. There is not a single Ultimate Guide in our queue right now. Not one. What went wrong? Well, a lot of things went wrong. But what's the one thing that really went wrong? I assumed the team could keep iterating. When we were trying Ultimate Guides a year and a half ago, the first one popped. The first one did really well. Tried another couple, or 2 or 3. They sort of missed. They didn't really, we got a pop of leads when we launched it to our list, but after that, it didn't really get the rankings we were looking for. It didn't get the traffic, the ongoing traffic. Wasn't helping us build our system. We were just getting sucked back into that content mill, just with more resources dedicated to it. So we were scoping out the 2016 plan. I was like, well, these things, some of them are working, some of them aren't. I'm going to assume my team can crack that playbook, right? That they can figure out that playbook. We're going to keep iterating on all the SEO tactics, the content, the structure of these things, how we launch it, and I'm going to make the assumption that we will get these to click sooner or later. I've seen enough evidence to see the potential. Now let's dial it in and scale it up. Then I set an annual quota. I want one of these things every other month for all of 2016. And that's exactly what we did. The problem is, they also stopped iterating. My team stopped trying to refine the playbook. And really, that's on me. I didn't give them the right structure. I didn't set their goals correctly, all that stuff. But we scaled too fast. We tried to go after volume too early before we had that playbook dialed. And we ended up wasting an entire year's worth of effort. Even I think our main winner that used to rank, I think that Ultimate Guide isn't ranking anymore. I think our best Ultimate Guides maybe hit page 3. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a complete waste of time for the entire year. Luckily, other programs did work last year. So when you're thinking about traffic, I now separate everything into 2 very different steps. And my teams run through very different programs before they're allowed to run to the next step. The first one is to keep iterating on the tactics until you crack it, like consistently. Not just a little bit, but every single time. Dial that in. These playbooks are always changing too, right? The playbook that we ran at KISSmetrics was very, very different than the playbooks that run now, or that work now. I had to throw all that work out and basically start from scratch. When you have the playbook that works, then is when you put on the gas and truly scale. And you want to push these things to absurd volume. And this is what we did at KISSmetrics. Years ago, you didn't have to do much in the way of SEO. Like, do the basics and just publish great quality content. And that worked really, really well. That's exactly how the KISSmetrics blog got started. People think Neil Patel's a founder and we have all this crazy SEO. Like, no, we didn't do any of that stuff. All we did was get great quality blog posts. We started at 2 a week. That was going well. We scaled to 3 to 4. Then we did 1 every business day. Then we did 7 a week, 10 a week. Every time we scaled up, the results got better, right? For a couple of reasons. One, the playbook worked, right? The playbook was easier back then. All we needed was great content, post it to the blog, going. And two, we pushed really, really hard on the volume. We pushed it a lot further than most people would ever even consider going after, and it worked for us. It worked phenomenally well. That's how we got to 1 million visitors a month at KISSmetrics, and we did that for 8 years, and that's, the blog drove the entire business. So this works for Facebook, this works for YouTube, this works for if the SEO and the rankings change in Google, whatever channel you're going after, whenever you're in a traffic game, a volume game, you're trying to crack that engine, go back, dial in the playbook, then scale to absurdity. So the second big engine, you're getting your traffic, that's working, now you want to go drive conversions. And when I'm working on this engine, the thing that I'm constantly thinking about, or the thing I'm always paranoid about, is choke points. I need to go find my choke points, and I need to drive quality on those choke points. And all it is A/B testing your lead choke points to death, right? And just doing it over and over and over, nonstop, relentlessly, for 9 to 12 months, back-to-back A/B tests around the clock. If you do that, some nice results can happen. Here's a couple examples. KISSmetrics homepage conversion. November 2013, our conversion rate from visitor to free trial signup was 2.85%. By August 2014, 8.71. It's about 9 months, we tripled lead flow. Traffic didn't change. We tripled lead flow simply from the homepage. SaaS business, your homepage is one of your core choke points. Go spend a lot of time refining, pushing the quality on that page to the absolute extreme. More recent example, the I will teach confirmation page. So our business runs off our email list. We're always driving email subscribers. Any new email subscriber has to double confirm, or they won't get any emails from us, right? We're trying to protect the health of our list. July 2015, shortly after I joined, the double confirmation rate was 63%. So only 63% of new email subscribers actually double confirmed and got on our list. I spent a little time on it with my team, and we got it up to 82. Right? The page looked radically different. Again, took about a year of nonstop A/B testing, but that's a 30% increase across the board, across every channel that we're working with, all lead flows on one page. That's a choke point. That's leverage. That is worth the time to push quality on. Another classic choke point, especially if you guys are working on blogs or inbound funnels, that all are your pop-ups. This is pretty much the CTA, like nothing is even in the same order of magnitude when it comes to converting traffic from a blog into an email subscriber or a lead or a sign-up of any kind. August 2015, we were doing about 1,800 leads off of this thing. August 2016, we're doing 7,100, right? That is a huge bump. So my ultimate guides, that completely biffed on me and failed, but we were pushing really hard on conversion rate increases, and that engine clicked, right? And that's how we hit our goals early and stayed strong throughout the entire year. So when you're working on your second engine, you're going after your choke points, it's really just using A/B tests to drive quality, right? And just doing this over and over and over again. If you guys want a taste of kind of the A/B testing program that I typically set up with my teams, just search for 7 rules of A/B testing, or just go to my blog, larslofgren.com. A good chunk of the program's there. The rule of thumb I tell people is if you have a choke point, an asset, whatever the lead flow is on that asset, You can double it, so doubling the conversion rates, pretty much within 9 to 12 months. So it's April, so it's a little tight. But if you guys got going tomorrow, went full speed, and really, like I said, back-to-back, nonstop A/B testing throughout the end of the year, you could double your lead flow by December. But what about those of us that don't have traffic, or don't have the resources, or don't have the infrastructure to go after A/B testing, or we're building something from scratch, so you don't even have anything to work with yet? What do? Well, we also have a process for that. This is the same process that we use to find our best performing hook, which happens to be a quiz called What's Your Earning Potential? This thing just demolishes my other CTAs. Every time we run it, it just wins. If you guys have done a lot of conversion optimization, you know how rare that is. This thing just wins and wins and wins and wins. It's fantastic. But that was not an accident. There was a whole process behind this to actually produce this hook, this headline. It didn't just come out of thin air from a moment of brilliant insight. The reason you can't just come up with an amazing hook or amazing headline for one of your choke points, a homepage, a pop-up, whatever it happens to be, is that your first headline is almost always a terrible headline. And this is even true for world-class copywriters. I work with many of them, and their first round of copy is generally not that great. It takes a couple rounds. And then on top of that, most of us are terrible copywriters. Certainly marketers. Most marketers are awful. People in tech are generally pretty bad. Most people have not spent the time to get really good at copy. So just acknowledge that. I acknowledge it. I'm average at best. Most of the folks on my team aren't any good at this stuff. So it's okay. Use the process to find the gold. And here is that process. Step one is you're going to take about 5 to 7 people on your team, get them into a meeting, get them onto a call, have them all do a 7-minute silent brainstorm, right? Set the clock watch. They can write notes wherever they want to write notes. Their goal is volume, just sheer volume on headlines, coming up as many as they possibly can. You can do designers. You can pull engineers into this call. I've had amazing headlines come from all sorts of different backgrounds and skill sets, so you don't need to do it with just copywriters. The key to making this work is to give them one main constraint. You can't just walk into a meeting and say, brainstorm headlines. It's too open-ended. The blank page is too terrifying. People need something to kind of hinge that creativity on. So give them a constraint, a core benefit you want to push, a core target market, a type of customer you want to go after, whatever it may be. You can give them one constraint, then the ideas start flowing. Now have them take all of their ideas, dump them into a Google Doc, the same Google Doc that you're all looking at. You're going to give each of them 3 upvotes. They can go through the entire list, and they are going to +1 the 3 headlines they like the best. It can be their own, it can be someone else's. They have total freedom. And what you'll find is that a couple of those headlines that you guys just spent a bunch of time brainstorming are going to stand out. They're going to get far more upvotes than everything else. And what you're doing is just a quick screen, right? You spent a bunch of time, you had a bunch of volume, now you just want to pick out a couple of the potential winners, right? So you know where to spend more time on, where to keep investing. In that list of ideas, take 3 to 4. Kind of winning themes, winning concepts that got the most upvotes. Now we're going to invest the time. We are going to take the person that has the best copywriting skills on your team, whoever that may be, and turn those 3 to 4 concepts, those initial ideas, into 10 to 15 really solid headlines. Spend some time in this. If it takes you 20 minutes, you didn't spend enough time on it. Take a couple days. And if you don't have any copywriting background, or whoever's doing this is completely unfamiliar with copywriting, that's fine. Just give them the book called Great Leads. It's a great crash course on headlines and hooks and how to draw people in. This is your starting point. So 10 to 15 really solid headlines. That's the goal. Now, you're going to take those headlines. You're going to dump them into Facebook. You're going to get a budget of $500 to $1,000. And you're going to use the same target group in Facebook. You just send these folks, these ads should go straight to your homepage, okay? We're not building funnels. We're not building land pages. We're not even fulfilling the promise. We're not going to keep this campaign running for very long. All we're doing is buying click-through data. That's it. So the photo's the same, the description's the same, everything's identical except for the headline, so you can see which ones get the strongest click-through rates. And what you'll find is that a couple of them will stand out. In this example, the winning for this round of testing that we did, our winner happened to be make $1,000 in the time you'd spend watching Netflix this weekend. So whatever your winner is, go build that, right? That's your last step. We had no idea how to fulfill this promise when we came up with this headline. We had no idea. We didn't even know how long people spent watching Netflix in a weekend. We figured it was a lot, but we didn't really, like, do we have 3 hours? Do we have 6? We had no idea. This PDF did not exist, right? And the landing page didn't exist, none of that. But we knew it was the winner. We knew it got the most attention. So then we spent the time and we went and built that PDF. Like I said, it's not our biggest winner right now because we actually ended up finding a better hook, a better headline that beat even this. But the conversion rates, whenever we ran traffic on it, were still strong. For a landing page that had not been A/B tested, that hadn't spent any time on it, dialing it in, this thing was really, really strong on day one. You don't need any traffic. You don't need any infrastructure. You can do this even if you're a solo founder right now. And on day one, you'll be stronger than the vast majority of people are. Well, most people don't do any of this stuff, but you'll come out swinging on day one. So let's do a recap. First, make sure you're playing the right game. Okay, what engine are you really working with? If it's volume or quality. If it's traffic, you're playing a volume game. If it's conversion, you're playing a quality game. Do not mix those two up. You'll waste a ton of time. When you're going after volume, first get the tactics right, especially when you're working with teams. If it's just you and you know you need to get the playbook right and you have a good feel for this, you can skip most of this. But if you're working with a team and you're trying to coach them through it, insist that they iterate on the playbook and are getting the results day in and day out that you're really expecting before you even talk about scale or quotas or repeating any of this. If you're going after quality, conversions, right? Those are not volume games. If you're doing something to drive conversions, keep refining what you already have. You don't need dozens and dozens of PDFs. You just need one good one. Then check A/B test. If you have the data, the infrastructure, the resources, take those choke points and just A/B test them to death. Any site of consequence, this is like the first thing I do because I know I can just run wins all year long and get those conversion rates really, really strong, which then makes everything else easier down the road. And lastly, if you are working on a new funnel, a new homepage, you're doing something from scratch, or you just don't have the time and resources to actually do that full A/B testing program, but you still want to get maybe 80% of the way there, even if you can't get 100% of the way there, go ahead and just brainstorm some headlines, get them into Facebook, buy yourself some click-through data, take the winner, slap that up. I don't even critique headlines at homepages anymore. I just run these tests. And we take the winner, and we use that. So that's it. Really appreciate it. I will definitely hang around for any questions that you all have. The slides are on bit.ly/30kleads. If you want to hit me on an email, lars@larslofgren.com, and I'm on Twitter @LarsLofgren. And I'll be at the party if you guys have questions.
Thanks, it was very interesting. So you mentioned your team a lot. I wonder what is the size of your team for KISSmetrics? What are the roles? What's the structure of this team? And how did you go about hiring them? Where did you find them? How did you vet them?
Wow, okay. So how much time do we have?
Are you wondering about the size, the team for IWT, probably?
Yeah, so, well, KISSmetrics, I'll start with
Okay.
KISSmetrics really briefly since that was your question. So when I ran the growth team there, I think I had 7 folks underneath me, 6 or something like that. A couple folks on the blog. I had an engineer and a designer working with me at one point. That was the basic structure. And then currently, the structure is a little bit more intense at I Will Teach. So I have 4 teams underneath me, each one with their own manager. And then the team size varies from 3 people up to about 8, 7 or 8, something like that, depending on how intense that piece of the funnel is. Each team goes after a different piece of the funnel. So I got a team running our launches, I got a team doing automated launches. I got a team doing inbound and traffic, SEO, and then the fourth team, we call it our optimization team. It's actually more of an actual growth team based on my definition of it, which is more of a product-based team focused on acquisition. So it's designers and engineers. There's no marketers on that team. And they just go after whatever metric is the biggest bottleneck in the business. So they don't have kind of an annual quota. Basically, they ask me, hey, Lars, what are you most worried about? What is keeping you up at night the most at this moment? What metric is failing behind the most? And they go spend a bunch of time on that. And then I have some copy editors and QA folks also underneath me. So I think it's about 20 folks right now, split between 4 teams and a couple direct reports. Basically, it's the whole marketing department. And then as far as recruitment and vetting, there's actually, regardless of how good I may or may not be with marketing and acquisition, I spent way more time getting good at recruitment. Because that is actually the biggest bottleneck on any team. It's not the skill sets, it's not the marketing channel, it's not the acquisition. It's can you recruit the people you need with a really, really high success rate and make sure that the people slowing you down never make it on your team. So I got really paranoid about recruitment, how those systems work. I have an entire playbook for how I run recruitment on my teams, as well as how we manage the teams, how we grow the teams, both skill set wise, how we set goals, check-ins, performance, the whole works. I spend much, much more of my time doing all that stuff these days, as opposed to in the weeds and trying to hack Google or whatever it may be. But yeah, I could go on for hours about that. That's days and days of workshops and sessions.
Come back to MicroConf 2018 and hear Lars talk about that for hours.
Thanks, Lars. It was great. 2 quick tactical questions.
Sure.
First, the testing the headlines. You just drive to the homepage. Okay, perfect. Second, the KISSmetrics, when you're talking about the traffic to conversion, to trial conversion, is that new traffic? Is that a stat you're measuring? Is that all traffic?
No, it's just total traffic.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you ever tried AdWords to test those headlines instead of Facebook ads?
Yeah, it'll work just as well. A lot of people do it. We did Facebook because we were running a lot of Facebook ads at the time, and I had 2 guys that knew Facebook inside and out. So spinning up that campaign was super, super easy. They already had everything in place, right? So it's whatever is easiest for you. If you're already running AdWords, go do it there. If you're already in Facebook, do it there. If you're not in either, just pick one.
How do I know if I need to work on traffic or conversions?
Yeah. Do both. That's the simple answer. Yeah, that's an and question, not an or. No, so I'm always, here's the way I look at it. If I'm looking at a funnel or a piece of a funnel or a business, the first thing I'll do is go ask around. I'm like, okay, how serious is this team, or how serious has this team been with A/B testing, conversion optimization? Is this a really methodical program? And if it's not, then I assume I have a year's worth of really straightforward, massive wins right in front of me. So if the team has not been disciplined with A/B testing, I assume I can double bottom line just working on that. And I also have a program, like I started developing at KISSmetrics, refined it at I Will Teach. Like that whole program, how we manage every step of that process is so dialed in that I can just kind of drop it, train the team, and it just goes. And then I can get out of it and go work on something else. So it's easy for me to implement, and I know there's big wins staring me in the face if the team hasn't focused on it yet. So I'll probably just jump straight into it because it's right up my alley. But sooner or later, you're going to hit diminishing returns, right? Like our double confirmation rate, I can't get another 30% increase off the board. Sooner or later, I'm going to hit a wall. Right, I'm just not going to be able to get. I can only get the conversion rate so high. Same thing with, blog traffic straight to an email subscriber. Like you're only going to get the conversion rate so high. Start getting 5, 10%. Like those are already crazy conversion rates. You're not going to get 20 or 30%. So you kind of have to make a call of where are you in kind of that bell curve of conversion rates. And if you're starting to get on the upper end and the wins are going to come slower and harder and you've already done all that work, it's like, okay, spend a lot of time on traffic, which is what we're doing right now.
Say that you have a solid down funnel conversion pipeline. Is that at that time, is it a good idea to invest in developing a high quality asset that you then direct paid traffic to solve that traffic problem, to then play a role?
When you say the down funnel is solid, what's the channel feeding into it right now?
What Facebook ads?
Okay, so the channel was built off of Facebook to begin with, and it's working, and now you want to scale it up.
That's correct.
I would go talk to someone that knows paid ads better than I do. Yeah, so that's, here's what I hear about Facebook and paid. There are folks that can make it, is this an info product or e-commerce?
It's e-commerce.
Okay, so e-commerce generally from what I've seen is a lot easier to make work on Facebook. I'm not as paranoid about it. I would just run every Facebook playbook. I would just try every tactic and push it to the absolute extreme. Was the guy that runs Frank Kern's program, I don't know if he still does, like Jason Horn or something. If you shoot me an email, I can dig up a link to his site. He's the guy that we followed. My guys, learned a lot of their stuff from him. So yeah, there's people that are much, much better at Facebook than I do. You got to be careful. The main trap that I've seen, and we've actually hit ourselves, is when you have an organic funnel working really well, and then you try to slap Facebook on top of that, or some other paid acquisition engine on top of that. You got to keep your tracking and attribution super, super clean, because just because something works on organic, the dynamics on Facebook all the way down the funnel are actually entirely different. And sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't. And you can act like, another confession, I've burnt millions and millions of dollars trying to crack Facebook and then walked away from it. So be careful with it. The main, like I said, the trap that a lot of people fall into is if something's working on organic, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll work on paid. But if it's already working on paid, then just do all the standard tactics, all the Facebook advice, no stone unturned, do all of it.
You asked him to email you. What's your email?
Lars at larslofgren.com.
Wondering if you could just touch on communication. So you have a fairly decent-sized team. Just wondering, and you talked a lot about your playbooks, and you come in and drop your playbook, and just kind of step back. Like, how is your team communicating the things they're learning? How are you?
Yeah, another big, giant, nasty question. So yeah, something else that I could spend hours and hours and days on. So communication, this problem never goes away, ever. Every team complains and whines about communication and silos, and this team doesn't know what that team's working on. So it never goes away entirely. The question is it like a massive fire? Like, are you doing it is it out of control, or are you guys generally aligned? And it's different at every stage, right? So the way that I handle communication when I'm the direct manager of a single team of 3 to 7 people, I look at communication very differently than I'm running multiple teams. Each of them has their manager. I'm running the departments. I got to interface with kind of an executive team, my peers running their departments, and they have their own managers. Like, our entire team's about 60 people right now, right? So that's quite a few folks. We spend a lot of time just communicating. That's essentially my whole job, is synthesis, coming up with the vision, and then talking about it until I'm so bored of it that I just can't stand it. When I'm sick of it, then I've generally said it enough times. That's when it starts to sink in. But everyone has a slightly different cadence. Some people do weekly all hands meetings. Each of my teams does a weekly kickoff call. Then they do daily stand-ups Tuesday through Friday. Although we killed Wednesday, we're testing no meetings Wednesdays right now. Leadership team meets once a week for an hour and a half. I do kind of a funnel call with all of my managers on Thursday just to talk numbers, what's behind, what's ahead, what's the next step, how are we iterating. If you want a book with a lot of frameworks with just how I think about it and how kind of that high level of what I try to build everything up into, the book I've found most helpful is Certain to Win. It's about I think it's pronounced OODA loop, OODA, observe, orient, decide, act. So I think of everything in feedback loops. And whenever I'm thinking about communication, I'm thinking about, okay, how can I help my teams be aware of where they are in the feedback loop? The lean startup cycle is another version. Where are they in that loop? And when they complete the loop, how can I make sure that they're pausing, reflecting, and then moving forward with the next best option and prioritizing appropriately? You basically have to like break each of those steps down into a system. We do a ton of postmortems. Everything gets piled into Confluence. Every A/B test gets a document on it. Every campaign. Every Ultimate Guide that we did, we have this like 10-page report on how badly it failed. Those things got depressing after a while. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
So you moved from KISSmetrics to IWT. Does that say anything about your thoughts on software versus information publishing?
No, it doesn't. So I love SaaS. I think the last MicroConf, I gave a whole talk on just the SaaS business model and the core levers and how to avoid a plateau, which is very, very common in SaaS. Freaked everybody out with my churn benchmarks. So I love SaaS. You know, I was just at SaaStr, did a talk there a month ago or 2 months ago. I love that community, love what they're doing. I actually take a tremendous amount of inspiration from tech, consumer tech and SaaS and all the, I think there's a tremendous amount to learn. And you know, I definitely could see myself getting back into SaaS at some point. So I don't think SaaS or info products are one. It's not necessarily one is better than the other. They have their strengths and weaknesses. Info products are a lot easier to get off the ground. They are much, much more difficult to scale. SaaS is sort of the flip. You know, just hitting product market fit on SaaS is so hard. You earn it. If you don't get product market fit on an info product, it's like, okay, you convinced a bunch of people to buy it, but none of them really finish it anyway, so who cares? Although we care. But SaaS, if you don't really have product market fit, what do people do? They cancel, and you feel it really soon. But if you get it to click, if you get the unit economics to work, if you get to negative churn, if you get those upsells expanding so your cohorts are actually making you more money over time, every time you bring another cohort in, and then you layer on a world-class like sales and marketing engine on top of that, like it just scales and scales and scales, and it won't stop, right? But there's a couple of core pieces that you have to dial in. So it's just a different beast, right? One's not necessarily better or worse. It's just like, what flavor do you want and what's more up your alley? Like, everyone in info products is trying to get into SaaS, and everyone in SaaS is trying to get into info products. I actually think it's really ridiculous. Like, just pick one and go. Like, they're both hard, right? Go pick one. And if you have questions about, well, which one might be better for your goals, come talk to me. If you want to build a $1 billion business, go do SaaS. If you want a nice lifestyle income, info products are great, but they're not going to take you to $100 million in revenue.
Sorry if I missed this. You said you're focusing on traffic at IWT. What channels are you guys focusing on?
So, the way I think about channels is one at a time. Especially at kind of our stage, where you build out an actual marketing team, even with a couple of folks. What does everyone do? Go create a Pinterest account, go create a Facebook account, go create a Twitter account, go start a YouTube channel, go do a podcast. I'm so sick of podcasts. The next person that recommends we should do a podcast, I'm just, I don't know, I'm gonna fucking go off. But like everyone just starts stacking channels. And every channel is so hard to make it click, both on the result side and then to figure out how to really scale that thing. To give you a sense, at KISSmetrics, I built out what ended up being our second most popular lead gen channel, webinars. I built that from scratch. So I did the very first webinar. I did all of them until number 32, I think. And then I also built the entire system, all the SOPs to run that whole program and then handed it off to someone else. That took me like 1.5 to 2 years to figure out. And I was spending like half of my time on it. Like, that was not easy. Figure out, okay, what are people going to sign up for? How many leads can we generate? What's the most effective method to generate a lead, like a B2B lead in this case, off of a webinar? What do the landing pages need to be? How do we drive traffic to these things? What variables matter? Which ones don't? How can we get people to stop asking me for the recordings? I spent 2 weeks on that because I got so angry at it. But anyway, these channels, like they do not click very easily. So spend time and dial in one channel. When that playbook is rock solid and you see it and you feel it, then go on to the next one. And to be honest, there's a lot of playbooks that we have that just aren't working the way that we need to. So over the last 2 years that I've been with I Will Teach, I've just cut. That program isn't working, we're not going to do it right now. This program isn't working, we're not going to do it right now. that program isn't working. We're not going to do it right now. So we're just going back to basics. And I've told my team multiple times, and I keep telling them, like, look, like no one should be better at us than high-value content on Google. That's all I want. And every week, my inbound manager, director of inbound, comes to me with all these random ideas. I'm like, no, 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 no. Stay focused on this. And when we crack that, and when I can just do it all day long, and I know what Google's looking for right now, and I'm giving them exactly what they want, then we'll get into Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, whatever it may be. But I always, like, just pick one, whichever is either working the most right now or has the most, you know, you're most comfortable with or most excited about. Just do one and cut out all the other crap.
So right now you're just focusing on Google search results. That's it. Okay.
How 2005 of you. I'm just kidding. That's a compliment.
It's actually more like 2007.
Yeah, if you can get Google search results to work for you, you're set. All right, maybe one or two more. All right. Where was that? You.
Awesome talk, thanks. How did you go about picking that channel? What was the thought process when you looked at your universe of tactics you could sort of roll with and you went for that one?
As far as Google, it's just what's working right now, right? And also what I'm most comfortable with, right? So it's, especially when you know, I'm talking to folks and they're asking me, Lars, I have this SaaS app, we want to start working on marketing, what channel should we go after first? I'm like, look, they all work, usually. More work than we think. But you want to just pick one that has, that you're really most, like personally most excited about. And if you already have some data, if you're already established and something's already working to some degree, you ask yourself, well, what's working right now? What's working the most, the best? Go do more of that. At a certain point, I'm going to have an honest conversation with my team, and we're going to say to ourselves, there is not a whole lot of traffic to keep going after. Right? There's all these terms. We're number one, number one, number one, number one. The long tail, we've just demolished. Like there's no stone unturned. There's no more searches to go after. And when we come to that conclusion, then we'll start thinking about the next channel. Well, I'll probably start working on it, you know, before then, so I have something spinning up when we come to that point. But if there's still room to grow in that channel, just keep doubling down over and over and over again. Don't get distracted with everything else going on. Like any channel, like the returns, there's outsized returns to the winner, right? Whoever's really owning it and going all in, they get 10x the results of second place. And you are going to have to go the distance if you really want to be first place. Otherwise, don't even play. And maybe it's just a personality quirk of mine, but either I want to win or I don't even want to play to begin with, and I just want to stay focused.
Hey, Lars. So just further down the funnel, you mentioned that IoTeach is basically driven off the email list. Mm-hmm. So I've had feedback from some of my customers that basically young people don't use email, you know, these damn Gen Y kids. And so I was wondering if that's something you have an opinion on, is it something you're seeing? And if it is, where do you go beyond email?
Yeah, I don't know. So we don't have any problems, but we have a pretty big audience. So if Gen Y is causing issues and it's not working for them, that's not necessarily going to roll up into my numbers and what we're paranoid about right now. So maybe there is a segment in there. Maybe it is on a younger demographic that isn't resonating with. And if that's the case, like, yeah, I'd be going after social hard, but that's a different beast. It's a different layer of the funnel, right? It's more awareness. There's not nearly as much intent. It's a different ballgame. So if email dies, I don't know what I'll do. I'll have a very stressful 12 months.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Lars.
Thank you.